Inglaterra, 1831. Charles Darwin parte com o navio Beagle numa expedição científica de 3 anos ao redor do mundo. No Brasil, Darwin descobre os encantos da floresta tropical e inicia seus estudos sobre a vida animal e a natureza. Em 1832, o Beagle deixa o Brasil rumo à Argentina. No litoral argentino, Darwin descobre fósseis de espécies sul-americanas extintas há milhares de anos. A expedição segue para a Terra do Fogo. A bordo estão Jimmy, York e Fuegia, 3 nativos que o comandante Fitzroy havia capturado em sua viagem anterior. Na Inglaterra, eles foram cristianizados. Com a ajuda de Matthews, um jovem missionário, Fitzroy pretendia reintegrá-los a seu povo e fundar uma colônia cristã. A expedição parte para o sul em direção às enormes geleiras. Em Ulaia, Matthews é alvo da crueldade dos nativos. Fracassado, ele retorna com o Beagle, mas Jimmy fica. Na Inglaterra, os fósseis enviados por Darwin são considerados raros, impressionando toda a comunidade científica. De volta à Terra do Fogo, Fitzroy tem sua última decepção ao ver que Jimmy se tornara tão selvagem quanto antes.
Even now, I cannot reflect on the great Patagonian wilderness in South America without the deepest astonishment. When one considers that all those pebbles, countless as grains of sand in the desert, have been slowly rolled, rounded, and far transported, the mind is stupefied at thinking over the long lapse of years. In April 1834, we had tried without success to reach the Andes by hauling the ship's boats up the Santa Cruz River in southern Argentina.
Man the side! Captain coming aboard!
To everyone except myself, the expedition had proved a bitter disappointment.
Pipes ready? Pipe?
Covington?
Sir?
Careful with these, they're heavy.
More specimens, sir?
Just fossils and rocks this time.
Mr. Darwin, we've come close enough to running aground without you bringing back half of South America with you. Did you reach the mountain, sir?
We did not. The river was too tortuous, the current too strong. It would have taken us another 3 days. We spared neither the time nor the provisions. What news of the repairs, Wickham?
Well, we beached her and fitted a new false keel. The copper was ripped off almost completely.
And now?
I'd say she's as strong as ever. There was no damage to the main timbers. 2 feet less water on that rock would have ripped her apart.
Well done, Wickham. Excellent.
Captain Fitzroy, can I have a further word with you, sir?
What is it, Wickham?
Your clerk, sir, James Hellier. I'm afraid he's been drowned.
Well, how have you been faring, Covington?
2 more parcels ready for Professor Henslow, sir. I couldn't get on with much else, what with the ship lying on its side.
Oh, I imagine not. Nothing damaged, I hope?
No, sir. I saw to that. How is the captain taking Hellier's death, sir?
It's difficult to say. He was obviously very fond of him, but when Wickham told him, he seemed quite angry. Do you know exactly what happened?
Yes, sir. Hellier was out hunting by the marshes in the estuary. He shot a bird and waded in after it. I think he wanted to bring it back for you, sir. The water can't have been much above his knees, but he got entangled in the seaweed. Just couldn't free himself.
But didn't he cry for help?
He must have done. No one heard him. And the tide came in.
You mean he was there for hours?
Seems like it, sir. Terrible way to die.
I don't want the matter discussed any further. He was careless with his own life. On an expedition such as this, that is unforgivable. Well now, philosopher, unfold the secret of your precious pebbles for the benefit of Mr. Wickham.
I found those 200 miles from the coast, right in amongst the foothills of the Andes.
You can see them everywhere.
Exactly, everywhere.
Oh, they look like ordinary beach pebbles to me.
They are ordinary beach pebbles. The question is, how did they get so far inland? I think the whole of the Patagonian plain was once a huge inlet to the sea, perhaps actually joining up with the Pacific. It must have been the action of the sea rolling those stones back and forth which produced this shape.
So what happened to all the water? I suppose the fish drank it.
Why not a catastrophic flood? A terrible deluge. The waters rise, pounding the stones against each other. Mountains collapse into the valleys, leaving sheer walls of rock. And the waters fall away.
But the pebbles, Fitzroy. You can't produce millions of pebbles as smooth and as round as this in 40 days, or even 400 days.
You see what I mean, Mr. Wickham? Our philosopher is sounding more and more like David with his slingshot, about to slay the Goliath of Christianity with a single pebble.
Oh, I'd just call it a typical landsman's view, sir. He's just waiting for the day when there won't be any sea at all.
If the Almighty can create a round earth and a round moon, why should a few round pebbles be beyond him? Perhaps it was the sea. Man became corrupt and filled the earth with violence. God, in his wrath, flooded the earth. And the waters subsided. I really don't see your difficulty, Darwin.
Well, to begin with, there's the size of Noah's Ark. 300 cubits by 50 cubits. How long was a biblical cubit?
I really don't know.
It hardly matters. You couldn't get two of every living, creeping thing into any ship made of wood. There are millions of them. They wouldn't fit on the Beagle. They wouldn't fit in the whole British fleet. Think of the size of all those extinct monsters. You wouldn't have allowed them on board, would you, Wickham? Neither would Noah if he had any sense.
And don't let blasphemy get the better of you, Darwin, even in jest. The Bible tells us there was a great flood. It may even account for the disappearance of some of your monsters.
But don't you see?
Now, don't provoke the wrath of God again, philosopher.
Every man aboard was eager to set a course for the Pacific. None more so than myself, with the mysteries of the great chain of the Andes waiting to be explored. But the captain was not yet satisfied with our charting of the Atlantic. Once again, the Beagle headed north, bound for the estuary of the River Plate.
Another winter in the Atlantic. And for what purpose? We shall all go mad. What are you up to?
Cutting up flatworms.
Worms? On a man of war? Hardly the Nelson tradition.
And for your supper, Earl.
If I cut them in half transversely like this, in the space of 2 weeks, both halves will have grown into the shape of the original.
Astonishing. Can you do it with humans? Imagine 2 Fitzroys aboard this ship, or even 4.
It only works with the lower kinds of species.
Ah, so we can replace sailors who fall overboard, but not officers. What about artists, I wonder?
Well, he's a clever chap, our philosopher. Reproduction without recourse to the fair sex. Just what we need on this ship.
Even if I cut them in such a way, so that one half has both orifices and the other half none. Both parts will grow into perfect specimens again in about 25 days.
You mean they can perpetuate themselves forever? Yes?
The captain would like to see you, Mr. Darwin.
Tomorrow, we shall be at the mouth of the Rio Negro. That's here. Now, I plan to survey this coast as far up as Maldonado, and then return to the Plata and put in at Buenos Aires, where I'm purchasing a second vessel, which Wickham will command. I'm calling her the Adventure.
It's a bold undertaking. How big is she?
170 tons, oak-built, copper-fastened throughout.
I take it the Admiralty will be paying for her?
Oh, I doubt it. The Admiralty's full of Whigs.
And where will the money come from?
Oh, out of my own pocket, if necessary. But even with the Adventure, the task will still take several months. Wasted months. From your point of view.
I suppose so, yes.
I could drop you at Patagonia's here. And you could make your way across the Pampa up to Buenos Aires.
Right across the Pampa, is it feasible?
Perfectly feasible. Only wish I could accompany you.
How about Earl?
Mr. Earl's not up to it. I don't particularly relish his company on board, but neither do I feel disposed to inflict him on you. Quite apart from snakes and spiders, the country is a prey to hostile Indians. I think you'll do better without him. Now, as to guides and horses, there's an English trader named Harris who lives in Patagonia's. I'll arrange an introduction for you.
I'll accompany you myself until we reach General Rosa's encampment on the Rio Colorado. That's about 80 miles from here. After that, I hope you'll be under his protection.
You're most kind, but I'm sure a guide would be quite sufficient.
A guide? The Pampa is one huge battlefield, Mr. Darwin, and the Indians make a point of killing their prisoners extremely slowly. Now, we must choose you a horse.
What are they saying?
They're just wondering what sort of a rider you are. Whether you're man enough for the journey.
I'm wondering that myself. Whoa!
Everywhere the landscape wore the same sterile aspect. A dry, gravelly soil supporting tufts of brown, withered grass and low scattered bushes armed with thorns. Prehistoric monsters had once roamed over these great plains, but what great elemental force had driven them from it? Whether it was a climatic change which destroyed or reduced vegetation necessary for their support, I could not guess. For centuries, the Pampa had been the homeland of the South American Indians. But now they too were about to lose their sovereignty. Ahead of us lay the headquarters of General Rosas, soon to be dictator of all Argentina. He was engaged in exterminating as many Indians as he could, which had turned the whole country into a dangerous battleground. This made him very popular with my gaucho companions, whose conversation was forever about the number of Indians they had murdered. The landscape seemed empty to the horizon. But in the afternoon, a sudden movement caught my eye. It was a group of South American ostriches, or rheas. It was easy to ride up within a short distance of them. But then, expanding their wings, they made all sail right before the wind, and soon left the horses astern. The gauchos told me that several females lay their eggs in the same nest, but it is the male bird alone which hatches the eggs. A singular arrangement of duties.
Have a care, Darwin. Don't wander too far.
I won't.
The guanaco, or wild llama, is the characteristic quadruped of the Patagonian plains. I had been told that if one performs strange antics, instead of making their escape, they become tense with excitement. Inside their elegant heads, curiosity and timidity are forever trying to gain the upper hand. There is a high enjoyment in the independence of the gaucho's life. To be able at any moment to pull up your horse and say, "Here I will spend the night." The death-like stillness of the plain, the dogs keeping watch, the gypsy group of gauchos making their beds around the fire have left in my mind a strongly marked impression of that first night, which has never left me. On the third day, our little party crossed the Rio Colorado and rode into General Rosas' encampment. I doubt if such a villainous, banditti-like army was ever before collected together. We tried hard to give the impression we had every right to be there, but in truth we were most uncertain of our reception.
You'll have to present your credentials. Leave the horses to me.
General Rosas?
No, el secretario. Su documento. Don Carlos el naturalista. Naturalista. ¿Qué naturalista?
I have come to your country to study rocks, animals, plants.
I am a geologist. I study the land, the mountains, the pampa.
¿Dónde está su mapa?
Spy! Spy! He thinks you are a spy. He wants to see your map of the pampa.
I have no maps as such, only a few rough diagrams of the country.
Espere aquí.
He says you are to wait.
How long?
Not long. He thinks you are a spy. He's going to make arrangements for your execution.
But I am an English naturalist.
Don Carlos, Inglés naturalista. Maybe General Rosas killed you. Maybe not. Who knows?
And who are you?
Don Octavio, jester of General Rosas. In Spain and England, all the kings have jesters. General Rosas, the same. He is very important man. And I make him happy. El secretario. He is nobody. He hates me. What do you want?
I'm hoping that General Rosas will give me permission to travel across the Pampas to Buenos Aires.
You are a brave man to travel in this country. The Indians, very, very fierce.
But so are the gauchos.
If a gaucho kills you, he kills you quick. If an Indian kills you, it is better a gaucho kills you.
Dígale que el general la va a recibir mañana.
I have arranged everything. General Rosas will see you tomorrow. Don Octavio has fixed it. El secretario. He is nobody. He do what I say.
With us Indians. A friendly tribe. Their men are probably fighting with Rosas in return for protection for their families. They say he always puts them in the front line when he attacks. In that way, whatever happens, Indians will be killing Indians.
As we watched, some of Rosa's cavalry escorted a group of Indian women into camp.
Prisionera india, acción. ¿Dónde trajeron esta ¿Dónde encontramos estas palomitas?
Regalito. Very pretty, eh? You like one of them?
They look so young.
We captured them last night. I think that one make good bedfellow for you, El Naturalista.
Where are the men?
One Indian. He bites a gaucho on the finger. Like this. The gaucho put his thumb in the Indian's eye, pushing it out of the socket. But still the Indians, he holds on. He nearly bites off that finger with his teeth.
I told you, it's like exterminating rats. Unless they want information, they never take the men prisoner.
Prisoners? You want to see? Come, I show you, come. They talk soon. When the sun gets hot and the ants come. I know. One day the general is taking me out when I annoy him too much. He do that to me, Don Octavio. This. They don't talk. They die first. Fine man, yes? My general is very fair. He lines them up. He says, give me the information. The first one he replies, no sé, I don't know. General Rosas, he says, shoot him. Bang! He says to the second one, give me the information. The second one he replies, no sé. Bang! He says to the third one, give me the information. And the third one he replies, no sé. Shoot me. I am a man, and I can die as a man. Bang! He died. Old brave man. Very sad. My general! Mi general!
As soon as you've seen him tomorrow, I'll head back to the Rio Negro. And remember, he's most dangerous when he laughs.
Leave us.
I am a good friend of a naturalista. I stay.
I said leave us.
I show him the camp, everything. You like me to stay a naturalista, eh?
Do you want me to have you punish again? You have come a long way, Mr. Darwin.
I'm with a British man-of-war, the Beagle, under Captain Fitzroy, who presents his compliments.
You like the gaucho?
They have shown me every kindness. Yes.
Good. Soon all this land will be theirs.
And the Indians?
They are vermin. They destroy our crops, like rays on our cattle. Do you know how many cattle I have on the Pampa? 300,000 head. My estancia stretch from the Rio Colorado to Santa Fe.
But General, I'm sorry. It is a matter of urgency.
General, atacaron la posta 7. Mataron a todos. Seguro ha sido un antiguo.
Que reemplacen a esos hombres inmediatamente. Y quiero 40 soldados, los mejores, listos para partir mañana al alba.
It is as I told you. The Indians have attacked one of my posters. Every single soldier has been tortured and killed. I know who has done this thing. It is a tribe, Bernantio. Now, he will hear from Rosas. If he fails to bring the head of this murderer to me tomorrow, not one of his tribe will be left on the Pampas. I will pursue them all the way to the Andes. There will be no escape. In 3 summers, we shall be free of them.
You mean all the Indians will be killed?
Some are my friends. They fight with me. You have seen for yourself.
Could you not try to Christianize them? In Tierra del Fuego?
You English. Our missionaries too have tried it. But they prefer death. So, your document, Mr. Darwin. I have arranged for a guide and an escort. Each night, you will sleep at one of my postas. Do not be alarmed. The Indians will not attack again so soon. In 3 years, you must visit us again. And then, the fighting will be finished.
I'd like to.
The people will be strong and prosperous. This is a young country, Mr. Darwin.
Thank you, General, for your hospitality.
Tell the people of England, Rosas is their friend.
In the harsh glare of that landscape, I was made vividly aware of the relentless struggle for existence going on around me. The territory over which the Indians roam is immense. But great as it is, in another half-century, I doubt if a single wild Indian will be left on the Pampa. The country will be in the hands of white gaucho savages instead of copper-colored Indians, the former being a little superior in civilization as they are inferior in every moral virtue. Who would have believed in this age, in a Christian country, that such atrocities could be committed?
Welcome back, philosopher. Would you believe we've missed you?
I was beginning to be afraid I might have missed you. I didn't fancy spending the rest of my days as a gaucho.
Look at him, a face like tanned leather. Nothing like a spell ashore to make you look like a sailor.
You should have come, Earl. Roast beef and fresh vegetables every day. Beautiful Indian girls.
You must be pining for salt pork and dry biscuits.
So, our shore-going fellow is back among us.
Fitzroy, it's good to see you. You'd be amazed how homesick I've been for this hunk of yours.
Well, we thought of you every time she pitched or rolled. It grieved me to think of all the sea practice you were missing out there on firm ground.
Is this all you've collected these past few weeks, philosopher? No bones or beetles, no rotting flesh to lay all over my decks?
I found a ship bound for London.
Thank God for that. You bring more dirt aboard with you than any 10 men.
Well, tonight we're all messed together. You can tell us all about your hairbreadth escapes and moving accidents.
I took to sleeping up here while you were ashore. I knew you'd have no objection.
Of course not. Would you like to remain?
Out of the question. Besides, haven't they told you? I'm to leave the ship altogether.
No, but surely...
My health is broken. I doubt if I could survive Tierra del Fuego for a second time.
What do you plan to do?
Take a ship to England at the first opportunity. And there's another reason. I'm afraid the captain has taken against me. He's not always in the best of temper. I seem to aggravate him.
There's nothing I can do.
Nothing. It'll be for the best, I assure you.
One of Rosa's commanders asked me without a hint of a smile, "Are not the ladies of Buenos Aires the handsomest in the world?"
And what did you say?
Charmingly so, in my best English manner. Then he said, "Do the ladies in any other part of the world wear such large combs?"
I must have known you're a collector.
I assured him they did not. He was so delighted, he insisted I have his bed for the night while he slept on the floor.
And these ladies with the enormous combs, where did they sleep?
You see how envious we all are. How many precipices did you fall over? How many bogs did you fall into? How often were you carried away by floods?
First, let me hear your news.
Oh, nothing to compare with yours. We have taken soundings and still more soundings.
At Montevideo, 2 petty officers jumped ship with 2 years' pay owing to them. It's hardly credible.
What about Rosas himself?
Oh, you should see him. He lives like an English baron in the Middle Ages. He even has a court jester. He has thousands of acres all put down to cattle, and he's killing off the Indians as fast as he can. It was pitiful to see in a Christian country.
But they say the Indians are appallingly cruel.
And so they are. But cruelty breeds cruelty. I'm beginning to think that the only hope of the Indians anywhere is to be left alone.
Left alone? Without clothes or dignity? With no hope or prospect of bettering their squalid existence? I think we can claim to have had nobler and more charitable intentions for our Fuegians than General Rosas has for his Pampa Indians.
I didn't mean to...
You forget, Darwin. The captain has a vision of Tierra del Fuego with church steeples on every hilltop and the sound of hymns floating across the water.
And why not, Mr. Earl? Surely I don't have to remind you of the acorn and the oak tree.
By the mark, high!
We were bound once more for the waters of Tierra del Fuego, then on through the Straits of Magellan into the Pacific. The weather turned bitterly cold, and the further south we penetrated, the more the health and spirit of the Beagle's crew deteriorated.
Be the first time since we left Plymouth this hostelry of yours has been full by now.
Tell that to the captain. Might persuade him to head north at last, back into the land of sunshine and fresh vegetables.
Yes. Oh, these fellows look as if they could do with it. What's the matter with them?
Mainly the flux. Several cases of frostbite.
Any sign of scurvy?
Not yet, but it can't be long if you want my opinion.
Well, does Wickham know?
Yes, but he thinks I probably have more influence with the captain than he does. Which is to say, none at all.
How's George Rowlett?
Hello, George.
Ben?
We take a little food today?
I can't keep it down.
Soup?
No, nothing. Don't fuss over me like an old woman, Ben. I'll be on deck as soon as we get to some warm waters.
The sight of such a coast is enough to make a landsman dream for a week about shipwreck, peril, and death. Even the captain's demeanor seemed to be affected. Perhaps the failure of his attempts to Christianize the natives of the region weighed heavily with him. Whatever the cause, he grew listless and despondent, and his earlier zest for the voyage seemed to desert him.
Yes?
Oh, good morning, Balliner. Finished your rounds?
Not quite. I've earned my pay this week for the first time since I've been on board.
Can you manage?
When we get fresh supplies, yes, without any difficulty. When will that be, Captain? When are we heading north?
As soon as I've charted this coast, Mr. Bino. Maybe this month.
Maybe next.
In my opinion, it should be this week, Captain. The crew are in a very poor state of health, and yours is no better than the rest
I
of
presume you haven't come in here just to put me to bed, Mr. Bino?
No, I haven't, sir.
Good.
What then? It's the purser, sir.
Rowlett, what about him?
I'm afraid he won't last another night, sir.
What?
I said he won't last the night.
George Rowlett. He's a good man. Good, strong, kind man. Why him? Why him?
I'm afraid I can't answer that, sir. Except that he wasn't very good at taking medical advice. It seems to be a characteristic on this ship.
Yes? Oh, come in, Mr. Close. You heard about Rowlett?
Yes, I have, sir. If this sou'wester holds, the Adventure should be with us by tomorrow, sir.
And the coastal charting party?
Mr. King will return with the whaleboat at first light, and then there's nothing to keep us in these latitudes.
Except our work, Mr. Wickham.
Sir. I have to report, sir, that 2 men broke into the liquor store last night.
Are they violent?
No, just a piece of foolish mischief. The men's morale is very low at the moment, sir.
Nevertheless, they must be punished. Anything else?
It's your morning round, sir.
You can take my rounds this morning, Mr. Wickham. Thank you, gentlemen.
Rope-cutting human flesh. Is there any sound more depressing to the human spirit?
Funeral and a flogging on consecutive days. I never thought to see that on a ship.
The last thing I want in my sick bay at the moment is 2 men with backs like raw meat. All over, Wickham?
All over.
You lay their backs open, I mend them.
I enjoy it no more than you by now.
Question is, how soon will you have to do it all over again?
Not for some little time, I trust. He's agreed to make for Valparaiso.
No. Well done, Wickham. I always said you could talk milk out of a bullock.
Yes, well, don't get too excited, because as soon as we've revictualled, he intends to head south again.
What?
He's dissatisfied with the charting we've done. He says it's inadequate.
Inadequate? This must be the most meticulous survey in history.
I've tried telling him that.
I'm afraid it's becoming an obsession with him. He can't rest until he's found every submerged rock in the ocean. Nothing less will do.
You make him sound as if he's losing his reason.
Oh, it hasn't come to that. He's simply exhausted.
At last, we reached the port of Valparaiso. The climate felt quite delicious. The atmosphere so dry, with the heavens so clear and blue, that all nature seemed to sparkle with life. Apart from the captain, there was not a man aboard who ever wished to see the bleak and barren regions of Tierra del Fuego again. I had been told that from here there were 2 passes across the Andes to Mendoza. I could hardly wait to get ashore.
But it's true. You haven't changed at all. Old school friends never do. How long has it been since you left England?
Nearly 3 years. We left Plymouth in December 1831.
Ah, it's a long time. You must be ready for some ladies' company by now.
Yes, very ready indeed. I've almost forgotten what a pretty girl looks like, but Charles talks of nothing but getting up into the mountains.
Oh, the mountains will still be there tomorrow.
Allá vienen.
Rosita, my dear, I would like you to meet Charles Darwin. He was my school servant in England, one of the junior boys.
Senor Darwin doesn't look like a servant.
Well, not a servant exactly. He was just part of the English educational system. A sort of moral training for the kind of journey he's on now. It prepared your character, wouldn't you say, Charles?
It prepared my posterior.
Oh, come now. I didn't beat you that often.
You beat the senor?
I suppose I did sometimes, but we ended up good friends.
Oh, and what is the journey to our own, Mr. Darwin?
You've seen the British man-of-war in the harbor, the Beagle. We're sailing around the world.
Just for fun?
No, we're making charts of the coastline.
And now he wants to cross the Andes, which is why I've invited Mariano here to meet you, Charles. He owns an estancia to the north of here. I thought he might be able to advise you.
It will be a pleasure.
I'm told it's possible to get across the passes to Mendoza.
That is correct. It will take perhaps 4 weeks. I have mules, provisions, everything. If you will permit me, I would like to accompany you.
Does the bell have a religious significance?
No, Mr. Darwin. That mule is my madrina. How do you say in English, godmother? She's my steady old mare. Wherever she goes, the younger mules, like little children, will follow her.
¡Listo, muchachos!
Each one of our animals carried some 300 pounds. Yet with what delicate, slim limbs, without any bulk of muscle. The mule seemed to me a most surprising animal. That a hybrid should possess more reason, memory, obstinacy, social affection, powers of endurance, and length of life than either of its parents seemed to indicate that art had here outdone nature. We saw condors soaring gracefully above us. Except when rising from the ground, I do not recall ever having seen one of these huge birds flap its wings. It was truly wonderful to watch a great bird hour after hour, without any apparent exertion, wheeling and gliding over mountain and river. On some occasions, I felt sure they did this only for pleasure, but on others were probably watching a dying animal or a puma devouring its prey. Bird and mountain seemed to belong together. And yet, if the mountains had not always been there, where had the condors come from? I had no answer. Amidst the din of rushing water, The noise of stones striking against one another could be heard even from a distance. Thousands upon thousands of stones, all hurrying in one direction. It was like thinking on time, where the minute that now glides past is beyond recovery. So it was with these stones. The ocean is their eternity, and each note of that wild music told of one more step towards their destiny. When one calls to mind that whole races of animals have passed away from the face of the earth, and that during this whole period, day and night, these stones have gone rattling onwards in their course, one can't help thinking, can any mountains, any continent, withstand such waste?
Who are they?
Va herido.
No, está muerto. Somos de la mina.
Miners. One of their friends has been killed. It's very bad in the mines here. Very dangerous.
Why are they in such a hurry?
It's a long way to the village. Many days' march. Keep your eyes open, Mr. Sullivan. You may discover a silver mine. A few years back, a muleteer, just like them, with no education, picked up the stone, like this one, to throw at his donkey. The stone was heavy, pure silver. Now, the mine is worth millions.
Where is it?
To the north, not far, in the next valley.
Did the muleteer become a rich man?
The government became rich. The muleteer, they gave him a new poncho.
A great mountain chain has such a solid and permanent appearance. The lofty peaks and frowning cliffs looked so much a part of God's purposes that it was hard to believe that they might not have stood since the creation of the world. Nor had it yet occurred to me that the age of the world's mountain ranges might differ greatly from each other, and that the mighty Andes would prove to be among the youngest of them all.
How's your breathing, Mr. Sullivan?
Not so good. Feel like a rest every 10 paces.
A little dizzy, perhaps?
Yes.
It is the thin air of the mountains. We call it the puna. The best cure, they say, is to eat onions.
Well, we haven't got any onions.
It is the altitude. In a few days, you will feel much better. Over there. We'll camp over there.
How high would you say we are, Gonzales?
12, maybe 13,000 feet above the sea.
What have you got there, philosopher? Come and look.
Extraordinary. Seashells. Fossilized seashells at 12,000 feet, Sullivan. How do you think they got there?
Well, it's not much good asking me. Perhaps we're sitting on some ancient campsite and these are the remains of someone's dinner? All right, unravel the mystery, philosopher.
They've been pushed up out of the sea. The whole mountain range has been pushed up out of the sea and the seashells with it. Don't you see? They prove it.
No, I don't see. I mean, earthquake can't do that.
Not just one, thousands of them, all pushing the mountains higher.
And it's still going on?
Almost certainly.
Well, then, we'd better hurry, or we'll never reach the top.
I'll never convince you you're worse than the mules.
I can hardly describe the sublime feelings which filled me as we approached the crest of the ridge. The satisfaction of a mountaineer who has reached his goal was mingled with that of a scientist who has made a great discovery. I could not claim to be either, but in my saddlebag, I believed I had the evidence I had been seeking. That some great force had raised these mountains high out of the sea. The atmosphere was resplendently clear. The sky an intense blue. The profound valleys, the wild broken forms, the heaps of ruins piled up during the lapse of ages, the bright-colored rocks contrasted with the quiet mountains of snow. It was like watching a thunderstorm or hearing in full orchestra a chorus of the Messiah.